My name is Hugo Martin. I'm Creative Director here at id Software.
Sweet. So tell us about your life before you worked in video games.
I was a concept artist for many years. I worked in films and games. My first game job was at Naughty Dog. That was awesome. I got to be there when they made the transition from their last Jak and Daxter game to Uncharted 1. So I got to work on that a little bit. That was really cool. And then I went to Blur Studios where I got to work on like game cinematics and things like that. And after that I went freelance for a while, so I was kind of like a free agent bouncing around to different projects like commercials and films and games and things like that. I got to work on Lost Planet 3. It was a really fun time, but I definitely reached a point where I was tired of being like a hired gun. Like I always kind of felt like I would come in, make some friends, work on some projects, but then my contract would be up and I would leave, which was fine. That's kind of what I was after, but it was the variety. But then I had a kid and I wanted to settle down, you know, see what was outside of LA, you know, what was going on there. So I started freelancing for id, and I really enjoyed working with those guys. Like Marty was awesome, and the rest of the team. And I asked them if they would be interested in me coming on full time. They said yes, and then yeah, a couple months later I was here. So it was really cool.
So whenabouts was that, and what stage was kind of Doom at that stage?
That was in 2013. They had just done like the reboot, so they were a few months into, I believe, the version of Doom that you see now. I was fortunate in that it was really perfect timing. The film thing was awesome, but I always loved working in games. I love working, both mediums are super fantastic and fun and challenging in their own ways. I got a chance to work on Pacific Rim. That was really amazing, and getting to see the inner workings of like what it takes to make a film really up close. Because when you work with Guillermo, you get to he definitely likes his concept artists, you know, close by him. You get to do a lot of really cool stuff. So, but I missed working in games. I'm a gamer, and just the idea that a consumer gets to spend just 20, 30, 50 hours with something you worked on versus 2 hours in a film is really compelling to me. And so coming here I was just jumping at the chance. I specifically wanted to go back full time at a game studio. It worked out perfectly that they had just restarted. I had people on the inside telling me what was going on a little bit. So they said, dude, we just, you know, we're starting over and I think you'll dig it. And so I started freelancing, and yeah, I got in right at the perfect time.
Excellent.
If you came to id at 2013, you were very fortunate.
Right.
Because you were right there when we were about to start on something that ultimately was pretty cool.
What was your experience with the Doom franchise, sort of growing up or playing games?
You know, I wasn't a PC player growing up, so I was always like more of a console guy, and Doom 64 was probably my first, you know, real diving in for hours at a time Doom game. Of course, you know, in the dorms, everybody was playing Doom, so I certainly got a chance to play it, and it was awesome. I mean, everybody loved Doom. I loved it too. I thought it was badass. I just loved, we were just talking about names and the name of your documentary and stuff, No Clip. It just had it all working for it. It was the look, the name, the simplicity of it all. It really clearly hit a nerve with people. So as a franchise, I was just super aware of it, because I'm kind of like a pop culture nerd. I love to, you know, it's a hobby, you know. So and as a professional, essentially what we're making is pop culture content, you know. So you want it to resonate with people. And when you look at a brand like Doom, it really did. I mean, it just definitely struck a nerve. So, and it did with me, but it was interesting to see how it connected with everybody. So, yeah, that was my first experience. And then, I mean, I couldn't wait to work on it. My experience, the main thing is like, I love fast games. I love action games. I like it intense. I like my gaming to be skillful, and that's everything that Doom, you know, needed to be. So it was very much like, it was just great to work on a project that it was the type of game that I would play outside of working on it. That was cool.
Was there a pressure associated with basically being tasked with redesigning a game with so much fandom behind it? Like, is that exciting or is it daunting?
I mean, I think it's funny. People ask me that all the time. I think that because it's a good question. It's artists, they like challenges. Like everybody in this building likes a challenge. So I think you want to take on the biggest challenge, and try to figure them out and solve the biggest problems. And definitely, that's a big problem to solve. Like, how do you update it for today's audience. Visually, game-wise, game design-wise, narratively, you know, like how do you do all that stuff? So it was a big challenge, but I think that's kind of what it made it exciting. That's kind of what gets you up in the morning, you know? If it's an easy task, like you know, I get this one. It's just not as compelling, you know? So this was, you had to bring your A game, like every day. It was, we're fans of the game, like we're huge fans of the game, and we know that the fan base is super passionate. Anything less than our best effort, you know, was not going to be good enough.
So, like, what makes Doom Doom? What were the things that you like were essential ingredients that you had to bring into 2016?
Movement, definitely. Like, it had to move, you know, like a Doom game. Honestly, I think the tone of the violence and just the tone of the game was super important. It couldn't be too serious. It had to be fun because I've said this many times. But I'm going to say it again. The characters and the world of Doom, you know, 1990s when it came out, it looked like something that a teenager would draw on the back of his notebook during math class. Like everything had this like juvenile quality to it, which made the ridiculous violence all kind of seem in good fun. I call it like horror for the whole family. You know, it's very consumable. You know, and so it had to feel like that. Even like. Which meant going over the top. And I think the work, many people here understood that whenever anybody would do something that felt like that, it just stuck. You know, it was very much like you'd work on stuff, something would feel right, and it was kind of like a puzzle piece that felt like Doom. You put it down on the table, and it was about finding the next puzzle piece. Oh, okay, that story element feels good. Oh, that level design, you know, that feels good. This character feels good. This character model looks good, you know. Just sort of slowly building it out that way.
Presumably then there was a lot that was cut during the process. We were talking to Marty, he mentioned about like a hacking game, for instance, that was pulled out. Was there any other like stuff that throughout that iterative design that just sort of wasn't the puzzle piece and got thrown on the side?
My God, there's so much stuff. Yeah, you know, just everything, every department, you know, like concepts that didn't quite fit the tone that I'm talking about, that juvenile, didn't have that juvenile quality. Levels that just didn't quite feel right in their blockout phase, you know. You wanted everything to be like super simple. I'm a big believer in the best designs both. My background is I went to school for automotive design at Art Center, and so that definitely filters into a lot of things, like just my thinking about design. Whether it's, you know, illustration or game design or anything like that, just in general, like brand design. The simpler it is, the clearer the message, the more easily the fans, the consumers will identify with it. So if you had something that was overcomplicated and a little bit too flowery, it just didn't make it in the game, you know. Even the name Doom is just simple, you know. So I think, yeah, if it was overly complicated, it wasn't going to make it in the game. But that doesn't mean, it's funny because it's like, that doesn't mean that the game is dumb, because I think it's deceptively smart, you know, and sophisticated. It's just easy to understand, which is honestly how things should be. I always compare it to like Apple products. Apple, when it's at its best, my son is 6, he knows how to use an iPad. You know, that's good design. So, yet that thing is obviously pretty sophisticated.
Has your son played Doom?
I don't know if I should say that on camera.
Well, we know the answer then.
He may or may not have played Doom. He might have made
That's a great answer.
He might have made it to Foundry. He might be struggling with the Shield guys. And his mother might be extremely upset about it. This could be an ongoing problem in my house.
Oh my God.
I can't help it. So, you know, we looked at the kaijus, like, that's what I always tell him, like, that's what Daddy does for a living, you know, try to take the edge off it. He loves it. He's awesome at it, too. Like, we play a little of, we play a little bit of everything together, so it's kind of how we bond.
Can we talk about, like, the sort of the initial level as, like, I feel like for this, we're going to do some sort of, like, an anatomy of an opening level, because the opening level for Doom is the most, like, structured, self-aware, like communication with a player I've seen in years. Can you talk about like crafting that? Oh my God,
it was so hard. We had talk about cutting stuff, you know. Right. So there was a tutorial level where a guy stood in front of you, you know, and told you what to do, how things worked. That was awful. there was just so much stuff. Like Olivia lecturing in front of you as she paced back and forth and you were stuck in your chair. Just a lot of like, sit there and listen to me stuff. And very much when he just throws everything aside, that's like how we felt after a while of just like, my God, enough with this, you know. I just want to kill demons and I want everybody to shut up, you know, like, and we were literally like, he should do that, you know, like, it's funny, like, I really appreciate that people picked up on all the little sort of, there's some messaging in there, like it's making a statement, it really is, about Doom, about what players want, you know, in a game like this. I think it's right for our game. I love story games. I play them all the time. You know, I'm in the middle of many of them right now at home, and it's just for this game, for this brand, it was the right way to go. So when he, you wanted it to be immediate. Like when he says the first, they say that the first 15 minutes of a movie, the audience is very receptive and they're very open to like. They're like, okay, what world do you want me to go to? Like, let's go there. You have about 15 minutes to convince me that to what the world is. And then if you break that later on, the audience gets like super upset. So we knew that like that opening, we kind of treated it like that. It was like, we're going to set the tone for the whole game. It's an action first game. The beginning has to be action. If we open with like a tutorial where people are talking, they're going to be like, okay, it's that type of game. So as soon as when you cock that shotgun and you leave the elevator, you're like, I know what kind of game this is going to be. I'm ready, you know? So there's the little scripture in the beginning that says, may we never need you again, you know, blah, blah, blah. That kind of set the tone that there's like this biblical, you know, he's just this biblical force, the Doom Marine. It's kind of got that flavoring. And hopefully people tasted the cheese. Like there's like a layering of cheese to all this. And it's like, we kind of wanted people to just exhale and be like, let's just have fun. Like seriously, like we know this is ridiculous. You know this is ridiculous. Like, good, can we shake hands on this and just like have fun? Cool. So it starts with that little scripture and from the Corax tablets, which again, the Corax tablets, like what are the Corax? I don't know. You know, they're just awesome. There's some awesome text somewhere that says awesome stuff on it. Right. So totally metal, you know, like absolutely. I grew up with that shit. Like my brother, big time metalhead, made me listen to the Iron Maiden stuff. Some of the first drawings I ever made is the Iron Maiden covered albums. I remember the opening to Iron Maiden's 666 song with like Vincent Price says that thing, the number of the beast. I'm like, dude, the game should start like this, you know, like this would be awesome. So you got the saying, and then it says that they are rage, brutal, relentless. Like that was totally to set the dial to like metal, you know. And then the dude comes at you and like you just immediately attack him. One of my favorite things about the intro is it is the great example of the teamwork that was involved in making this, because everybody from every department contributed something totally awesome to this. It was just constantly getting plussed every time somebody put their hands on it. We all like high-fived. It was one of the last things we did. And I think throughout any project, you're kind of learning how to work like a team. So by the very end, we were a team. Like we knew how to get shit done and work together. And I mean, as painful as it was to throw stuff out, Brandon Souders, who was the level designer on the intro level, was, I mean, it required an incredible amount of patience, but he was totally down and he kicked major ass. I mean, it's a huge credit to him, the work that he did. Alan Rogers, the animator, who did the swipe and the hit and the grab and like just the little touches that he grabs and you know, and he smashes his head down like, and you just geek out to it. Me and Marty are like freaking out, like, oh my God, that's awesome. Put that in the game, you know. And then as soon as you land, I love watching the Twitch feeds because the players are like, oh my God, I'm playing, you know. Like, but that was good. It was like Doom, like boom, right in your face. But the sarcophagus thing was cool because ruthless efficiency. Like that was kind of like the motto. Like say everything with as little as you possibly can. And I think it's a deceptively, you know, intriguing story because I'm asking you to figure it out. I'm not going to tell you the answer. Like so that way, if you don't care, just don't even look at it. Don't even look at the echo. Like who cares what that sarcophagus is? But if you're into that stuff, you know, ask the question. It was funny when we were playtesting it, and it wasn't complete. People, some of the playtesters freaked out because they were like, "Well, I don't know what I'm being born in. Like, what is this? Where are my answers?" Because, like, you know, in some things you might get all the answers right away, and I'm like, the fact that you want to know what that answer is, that's exactly what we want, you know, and hopefully that drives you through the game. That while you're blowing shit up, you've just got a little question in the back of your mind, like, what the hell am I? Like, why was I in a sarcophagus? And it's sort of like, good. We'll answer that later if you keep paying attention. So, yeah, when you look back at the sarcophagus and they're like praying to him again, it was like sort of setting the tone that like, I mean, you're a god, you know. The demons fear you. That was something really important. Like, you are the monster, you know. There is a monster in Doom, and it's really you, you know. I just thought that was so powerful. We looked at Marty and I love to geek out about stuff like that. I very much we connect in. He's just so down to nerd out about shit for hours and dissect it and figure out what the ingredients of something good is and then how we put it into the game. Like, and we did so much of that with the devs and everybody. Like, we just have an awesome team overall. It's very fun. So in RoboCop, in a good action movie, the characters kind of learn. They learn about who the hero is by what people say about him or to him. So in RoboCop, when you're slowly being made into RoboCop, which is one of the most phenomenal sequences I've ever seen, you know, everybody knows it. You know, it goes black, and then they put the lens on and all that stuff. We studied that, and it was sort of a big inspiration for the intro to Doom. And there's this great scene where, like, just the moments where he goes to shake his hand and he crushes his hand. She's like, that, you know, 1,500 pounds of foot pressure. He could crush every bone in your body. And you're like, RoboCop's just a fucking badass, dude. And then the guy goes up to him and he like rubs his hand. He's like, you're gonna be one bad, you know, mother effer. And that, I just cursed. I don't know why I said mother effer. So that right there, you knew RoboCop's badass, you know. And the way that they go into his tracking and everything, they just indirectly are telling the audience, RoboCop's super badass. Everything he does is going to be awesome. So when you see him walk into that grocery store and he just aims and shoots, there's all this subconscious stuff going on of like, he's just not a guy. He's got a targeting system. It's fucking crazy. You know, like, wait till he picks up that guy. It's 1,500 foot pressure. It'll crush his hand. So that and yeah, just stuff like that. There's another one that we use as a point of reference, but I can't remember. But so when you woke up and the way that they were bowing to him, you're like, people bow to me. That's how badass I am, and I'm just sleeping, you know. And later on, when you touch the Slayer's testaments, you know, and they talk about you like you're a god. I mean, that is basically that actor leaning forward to RoboCop and being like, you're gonna be one bad motherfucker. Like, they're basically saying, like, you know, he's this wrecking machine. We have to seal him away. That complements, and this is a big point of everything we did, the star of the show, which is the combat. Like, it was, believe me, I'd love to like make the whole game about these RoboCop story moments, because that's what I'd like to geek out on. But ultimately, we're making a game, you know. So, and the star of the show is combat. It's level design. It's guns. It's system, all working together to make you feel like a fucking badass. So the story has to just support that. And I think that was kind of the theme. I don't know if Marty talked about this, but like, we saw it as like you're taking art, tech, and design and pushing all those things together to make a tight, cohesive, like tight as a drum experience. That's all about just being this killing machine. And the story really just had to support that. It's just so funny when you got to the suit and, you know, you walk out and you want to see it again. It's just Giant Bomb wrote this great article in it, and listening to their podcast and other people's podcasts, I love when they get it. Like, right. Because some people looked at it and they're like, this is ridiculous. Why is this thing with candles? And it's the person who says at the beginning of that 666 Iron Maiden song, like, why is that guy talking? And you're just like, we need to stop talking about this. Like, you have to leave.
You don't get it.
You don't get this. Yeah. Like, it is just awesome. You know, just let it go. Let's just have fun. You know.
I mean, it looks like the cover of a heavy metal album,
and it's ridiculous. You know, it's got glyphs on it and stuff like that. But honestly, like, you need your characters in your story to take the ridiculous seriously. It's okay if I laugh at it, the audience, but you want them to, you know, when they're bowing, they're not like giggling. You know, it's very serious. So it's kind of that balance. And then this was a big one. So when we went through development, we talk about what we threw away. We wanted to, most stories, they say the bad guys have to take something away from the good guy in order for the audience to understand that the bad guy's bad. You know, they took away RoboCop's life. Essentially, you know, the bad guy takes away his ability to be with his family. You know, so we see that when he murders them. So we're like, oh, the demons, like, well, they land on Mars, and then you don't know it's demons yet, and then you find out it's demons, and oh my God, and somebody even asks, like, what do you think they are? And they're like, I think they're demons, you know. and then that's what we did. We laughed because we were like, that is ridiculous, you know, like, who cares? Like, you know, they have pointy teeth. They might be vampires. You know, like, I was like, So then, and then we wanted it like you'd find out like they murdered someone or like they took something away from you, and all of it was like, oh my God, like who cares? The phrase "demonic presence in progress," I mean, demonic invasion in progress, is meant to we're saying something to the audience. We're literally like handing them a ticket for a train ride. We're like, are you ready to go? Because like we're gonna leave right now. You know, like we're just forget it. Like, you know they're demons, I know they're demons. We both want to shoot them in the face. Let's just go. You know, and that's cool. And then when the guy comes in and he starts talking, you know, and again, just the animators did just such amazing work. Like the subtlety, like just getting it right, you know, the little inflections in his hands. Like we were trying to emote as much as we could from that character, and to hear some of the positive feedback that we got about that was just awesome. And the art and the effects, it is really just a culmination.
Just like punching the elevator, just like...
Yeah, he grabs it when the guy goes to give him, yeah, that was a great, just the clenching of the fist. When the guy goes to give you the exposition, and to truth be told, we want you to hear who that guy is. I mean, he's basically the only other guy in the world. We like the fact that like there is no normal human left. Like there's an aspect of the end of The Thing. I love John Carpenter movies, and John Carpenter heavily influenced a lot of stuff that we did. The end of The Thing, when Kurt Russell's sitting across from that guy and they just say, we're just going to sit here and drink this and see what happens because one or both of us might be... It's so depressing. It's like, what a shitty ending. But I love it, you know? I love that there's nobody left. So it's like, there's nobody left on Mars. Like, everybody's murdered. And then the one guy that you think might be a human, he's a robot. You know, like... and so... But he starts to give you the ham-fisted... you know, delivery, the exposition, the rules, you know, like, let's talk. I'm going to give you orders, and you're going to go push buttons, and he just throws it away, you know. And we purposely wrote that in a way that, like, right at the moment that the audience is like, oh, fuck this guy. And then Doom Marine's just like, whoosh, and you're just like, nice! I was thinking the same thing! You know, like, but
even the way he does it, it's not like he shoots it,
yes,
or, like, breaks it off and smashes it. It's such like a, oh, just fuck off.
Like,
it's such a... like, yeah, you superfluous, like, I'm not even going to waste energy getting rid of you. It's
the animators. I mean, they I believe Alan did that as well, but they all did a great job, like Brett, and we just have a bunch of really, really great animators, but exactly. Like, when you saw it, you were just like, that's perfect, you know, because we would talk about that, like, it really was. It wasn't just, yeah, and then he moves it out of the way and we go to the next thing. Like, no, like, he's saying, shut the fuck up. Like, I don't want to hear this, you know, like... And you get the tutorial, you go through, you get introduced to the first bit of arena combat, and that's really interesting because push forward combat was everything to us. Like, we had a rule: you hold still. If you stand in place, you're dead. You know, so that imp room is meant to teach you that. Like, not unlike you see in some. I love when a game does this, where the first level kind of smacks me in the mouth. Like, it's a little bit like, we're not messing around. These are the rules of our game, and no, you will not. What I like about Doom, I love when games put me on a road, and it's a slightly narrow road sometimes, like an action game where it's like, you kind of have to do this if you want to be successful, because it forces me into their mechanics, and I get to explore them, and like, you know, I just enjoy that. When almost sometimes for certain games, I love it in an open world game, but like on certain action games, if you give me too many choices, I might not experience the really great mechanic that you have lying in there. So, you know, we had that room set up. Dorian modeled that room, and Jerry, I think, was involved as well. And it's basically a showcase for the type of combat that you're going to experience throughout the game and teach you to move. It's wonderful to watch the people on Twitch die, because that room's kind of challenging, especially if you're playing on ultra-violence. Like, it's not easy. So, yeah, and they're moving around, and they're learning the cadence of things. And this meant a lot to me. I think a movie, a book, anything should be good from the beginning. Like, it's not in 3 hours, the game. Did you make it to the third level? Because that's when the game gets... No, dude, within 5 minutes, the game will be awesome. You know, like, you will have fun. It will be fun from the beginning, you know, and you're skipping around, you're learning the mechanics, you're learning the imps, which is one of my favorites. You meet the first gore nest. What I love about the gore nest is, which is funny, because in a lot of games, and we had discussions about this, in a lot of games, the gore nest would be something you avoid. Like, it would be like, oh, that's the thing. Avoid the thing. Ah, shit, I triggered the thing, and it starts the fight. The Doom Marine's looking for a fight. You know, it is literally like a T-bone. When he sees that thing, it's a T-bone steak, and he's a tiger. He's just like, cool, because I love starting fights. You know, like, my favorite thing is to kill demons. You know, does this start that? Great. You know, like, so when he goes in and he just rips it apart, of course, then the ridiculous level of violence and the blood shoots out. The way the blood shot out was totally inspired by Kill Bill. That final scene in Kill Bill when the sword fighting scene, when she cuts the heads off and the blood is just like ridiculous. Virginia, she's an amazing effects artist. We have an amazing effects team. It was so funny, the discussions about that, because it's sort of like, normal amounts of blood, and we're like, no, like it's got to be like a geyser coming out of the thing. Just everybody's like, this is ridiculous. When you get a headshot, it's huge, and everybody just cracked up. It actually works mechanically very well from a game perspective, because you really get the immediate feedback that you got a headshot. So the blood, pops out. There's this huge scream, and then boom, like the fight's off. But we just banked. We were betting on the audience that that's what they wanted to do. We had one or two people say, "Oh, well, should I avoid these?" This is early during tests, and we're like, I don't think anybody who paid $60 for a Doom game is going to avoid a fight. I think they want to fight. So then there was that, and then when you walk through the hallway. And she says, we have to contain this. He could ruin everything. That's that subtle indirect storytelling, like just super lean, very, very efficient, and just, I don't know. I like that kind of storytelling. What was that movie? Sicario was something, a big inspiration for this type of storytelling. I mean, we're not the only ones that do it. And everything that Sicario says, by Benicio del Toro's character says at the end of the movie, it all adds up to something. So you hang on his every word. I love that. Like, really, we wanted the audience to hang on the Doom Marines' every gesture and the game's every movement, because there were so few. When you're only laying out like 10 parts for them to put it all together, everyone counts. It's kind of like, and I kind of feel like we got this, is that like with the Terminator, like in Terminator 1 and 2, and especially in 2, every little like humanistic inflection that he gave, it was a huge, when he turns to the camera and like cracks a smirk, you're like, oh my God, he smirked. So like when the Doom Marine pauses on to do something and then he grabs the Vega chip and puts it away, like everybody picked up on it, because the Doom Marine doesn't do much, so every bit of it counts. I think
or delicately places was it delicately take out out of the Argent generator and it's fucking kicks
fuck this guy. So if you were paying attention, that would say, again, I love the idea that she would say he could ruin everything, because again, it is the RoboCop scene of him leaning in saying like, you're a bad motherfucker. It's basically saying like, I'm powerful and I'm feared, which makes the player feel powerful. And I just kicked the shit out of a bunch of imps. I mean, that was amazing. And then when you go into the elevator, it was just timing, Jerry, I mean, just to get stuff to work. I mean, video game development is not easy. To get stuff timed to the point that when the elevator opens, the shotgun cocks and the music is right there with the lag this and the timing of that and the frame rate this, and holy cow. Like, it's literally 3 a.m. at Jerry's desk, and we're all sitting there like pale, like the timing is off. We have to get this fixed, like, and he totally got it. I mean, yeah, it was just awesome. It was fun. Honestly, like, it's not work. It's we're having a ball. I mean, I'm at least I am. Like, we're just doing the best work that we can, and it's challenging, but it's literally, like I said, why you get up in the morning. And when he hits that, this was Marty's suggestion. When he glances down at the body, when the guy says, I don't know, I forget what he says. I shouldn't forget.
It was worth it or something.
Yeah, it was worth the risk, I assure you. And he like looks, or clearly things have gotten out of hand now or whatever, and he glances down. I love that little touch. And that's all of us in a room just like watching the scenes, giving dailies, giving notes. Everybody's contributing. It was just awesome. And then he hits the thing. Chris Height, our sound guy at the time, he just did an amazing job putting that all together. We actually had that sequence already that we were going to make the whole title sequence and when it shakes. That was from something else. And I really feel like the creative process is at its best when people are improvising together in the moment, because we didn't make that specifically for that. It's literally like fourth quarter, oh my God, we have an idea, let's put this in there, like it works. So yeah, the timing was perfect. I mean, if I could just, I think about it, it's like the textures broke on the glass, then we fixed the textures, then it broke again, then to get to the thing, then there's no sound. Like, it's just crazy. When it finally went into the box, you're already like, don't breathe on it. Like, it works. Don't even look at it. So, and then you're off, you leave, but you're in a Doom game. We really wanted to, in a wonderfully cheesy, fun way, we're going to have some fun. we know it's stupid, and if you're down, we're going to play with this, you know, and just make a statement. And the level that Souders had put together immediately following that, I thought was wonderful. It introduced you to secrets, little key card action, which I'd love to talk about more later. And I love that it all ends with, again, that little subtle nod. You just blast it through, and it says the thing about the 221 accident-free days. You're just like, I just had a lot. We just caused a lot of havoc, and he just makes that little comment. But it's just on the side, you know. It's very, very much out of the way. But I think it maintains that tone, you know. Like that complements the fact that I'm ripping people's arms off and beating them to death with it. Right. You know, I think that's what felt right. All the puzzle pieces kind of coming together make like a Doom experience.
So I guess one of the things actually we didn't talk to Marty about much at all was we'll get into the combat again in a little bit, but the exploration stuff, right? Like this is a game where you're basically just running around murdering people at 100 miles or demons at 100 miles an hour, and then you have these moments where it's like, oh, like I'm using this, what's basically a throwback original Doom like map.
Yes.
To like find like bobbleheads, like explain.
And it's fun, which is insane. He collects toys. Like he's a toy collector.
Like, it's like you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. You know, oddly enough, that's where the pace break came from. We were nervous at some point. The breakneck pace of combat would be too much. But it's you know, the game basically leaves it up to you to shift it down to second gear if you want to. If you want to blast through the game and just kill stuff, I will accept the fact that you would say the game is, you know, repetitive. Right. If you play the full game, if you read a couple of codex entries, you listen to a couple of stories, you look for those toys, you do some searching, and then you do the combat, I think it's a wonderfully paced game, you know. But it's kind of up to you. So for those that did, yeah, it proved to be the pace break that really complemented the action. I remember I had a play test. I play the game obsessively. I'm a big believer in just really understanding your product, like inside and out. I just think, you know, you're designing a sports car, you better drive the shit out of sports cars every day. Like you're making a video game, you better play that video game like nonstop and know it as good as you can. So I had a playthrough. It's odd because you knew where the secrets were and the designers were putting them in the map. So I often wouldn't search for the secrets. You know, you just kind of check in to see if this thing triggers the thing, and you're working with the LDs and everything. And then I had a playthrough where I went for the secrets, and a whole new game opened up. Very much what you said. And I ran over to Fook, Pat Hook, who's one of our LDs. He made Surface 2, which I think is it's not Surface 2, it's Argent. Surface 2 is what it's called by developers.
Inside scoop.
Yes. Whatever map Surface 2 is, I don't even remember. Argent Facility Destroyed or something. It's when you go back. I loved his map so much more. It was the secrets. I'm like, oh my God, I found them all, and it was so much fun, and it's just this perfect balance. I mean, these guys are fans of the game, so they know that classic Doom, that feeling of, you know, searching for those secrets, and obviously going into making. I mean, I'm sure Marty talked about this. When we rebooted, it was all about making it feel like Doom 1 and 2. Like, that was the main focus. So, obviously, secrets, huge part of it. So, Automap, you know, using those two things together to search for the secrets. But how much fun it was. I mean, people ask me, like, were you nervous about key cards in the game or secrets? And I'm like, if it was fun, it stayed in the game. Like, that, I'm so proud. I give a lot of credit to Marty and for standing by this, because there was a lot of criticism. Not a criticism, but it's focus on the fun at all costs. Right. Like, we were all committed to that. If it was fun, who cares? Like, old school, this school, like, it's fun. You know, it's the fun school. That's all that matters. So, you were searching for the secrets, and it was so much fun. I ran over to Pat. I'm like, dude, this just feels awesome. I mean, it's funny because I don't know where all your secrets are, because he didn't tell me where he put them all. So I was just having so much fun. I give a lot of credit to Mark Diaz, Peter, Sokol, who did a lot of great work in the game and getting the automap working and feeling good. It was really funny. They were having a creative conversation about the automap. So being an artsy-fartsy type, like, of course, I want it to work and I want it to look cool, you know? And I remember Peter saying, like, it doesn't need to look cool, it just needs to work. And at some point, I remember I literally removed myself from the conversation. I didn't hold things up too much, but I remember being like, I'm just going to not be here because it really doesn't need to look good. He's right. It just needs to work, you know? So, and it does. It's very simple, and it reads really well. Those guys did tremendous work, and it adds just so much to the game. And then the toys. Like, everything about the game has a sense of humor, and it just made us laugh. You know, we're like, I love that he would search for these things. You know, you know what? I'm hesitant to say what they were going to be, other than toys, because we actually might. You know, I don't want to say.
Yeah. Okay.
but it just cracked me up, and it was also a moment. Brett. Excuse me, Brett put this, he's one of our animators, he put this in the game, the little fist bump thing and the little moment. Like, I love how he touches it. That stuff was really interesting because you can ruin your brand. Like, even though he's a simple character and we were just doing, you know, what was fun, we took our fun super seriously. Like we really obsessed about the brand and the Doom Marine, and that just, it was a knife's edge of cheesy stupid to like cool stupid. You know, there's smart dumb and there's dumb dumb. Like, we wanted to be smart dumb, and so too much of this, it's ruined.
Right.
This once in a while, you know, the little thing, like that's perfect. So like, and all the secrets were meaningful. Like, there was something to them. You were progressing your character. I think the systems in the game and the progression in the game, which is a huge testament to the great work that Peter Sokol did, and some of the other guys. It just, everything is meaningful. You know, that was one of Peter's mantras, was that you get an upgrade for a gun, it's meaningful. So when you dig into these corners, I love the toys, but also you get the mod bots, you get the stuff that you need to make yourself more powerful. And then, again, super simple, you know, Apple level simplicity. You can get your combat points and your upgrade points, you go to your menu and you know how to do it, and it works, and you're using it, and it's impactful, and it's making a difference. Like, that was key. You know, I really think that's why that stuff works.
Tremendous. I guess, like, with the different models that you put into it as well, like putting like a Commander Keen one in there, like, whose idea was that? That's
Jason O'Connell's. So he really brought a lot to the game. Like, Jerry's our lead level designer, and Jason O'Connell's our principal level designer, and you know, at ID, you come to ID, everybody's going to contribute to everything. Like, we get stakeholder groups together. So I have zero interest in the idea being necessarily my idea. I just want the best idea, and I don't care if like a system idea comes from a character modeler or, you know, whatever. So Jason had a big influence on the game from many different perspectives. First of all, he's a huge Doom fan, like huge. When he would make levels, he had Doom on, and he was listening to Doom music. You go into his office, you were transported into, you know, 1994, and there was all kinds of Doom stuff going on. It was inspiring, and when he would block out levels, he would put in all of these cards with these funny little nods to the original Doom, and I, like I said, cool idea, it's going in the game. And I would see that stuff, be like, oh, we're modeling that, like, right. You know, that's going in there. So when he set up that first secret, that was his idea. He wanted to put the Commander Keen. Wait, was that his idea? I know he put so many of those things in the game, so he certainly deserves credit. But I think I'm trying to remember who actually did that. That might have been. It doesn't matter. He was totally in on that. And that stuff was just awesome. We loved it. And it was the satisfaction that you got out of finding the secrets. You know what I mean? You dig around, and maybe you find something meaningful for the progression stuff, and maybe you find a Commander Keen head or a doll. You know, like, all of it was entertaining. We didn't want to waste the player's time with anything that wasn't entertaining.
Again, talk about that line of straddling, like, you know. There's two kind of things. There's like the over exposition. There's the subtle storytelling you're doing, which is like super clever. There's like the cool, you know, stuff that's in the game that's like not stupid cool. Can you talk about that in relation to, like, for instance, the codex entries? Like, who wrote those?
You know, I was in charge of story, and we had Adam Gascoigne came in to help us out with the writing and stuff like that. And we it's funny, like we interviewed a couple of writer guys, and Adam he wrote beautiful geek fiction. Like, he was so good at it, and I love working with him. Like, he is awesome, seriously. So we're developing the story, and also have to, I'll get to this, but Chad Mossholder, our lead sound guy, he wrote a lot of the UAC spokesperson lines, like Argent Energy, the road to hell is paved with Argent Energy. So we're struggling with the story. We really did. It was the last thing to fall in place, because the game's going first. Oh, levels fall into place, secrets fall into place, we've got the glory kills, we've got all this stuff. I'm like, how the fuck are we going to put a story on this? You know what I mean? And like I said, it was getting in the way, you know, like, because you stop the player and start trying to justify why he hates demons, and everybody loses their shit. So For a while there, it was a slow build up to like revealing things. And Adam would pitch some, we'd give him that direction, and he'd do some stuff. And we knew that I wanted the codex to be like a nerd Bible. Like basically what you were doing is you were a Comic-Con geek going around the world filling it with pages. So by the end you could sit there and go through it and just till your heart's content. I love that stuff. On Pacific Rim, there's a forum, and you know what kind of metal Gypsy Danger is made out of and who made his engine. In the Gundam universe, they just nerd out about that stuff. I love that shit. Like I could read that shit for days. So we really wanted the codex to just be the deep dive into the nerd world of Doom, into the universe of Doom. And also like some meaningful stuff too, like kind of fill out the picture again. And it seemed like the best way to do it and stay out of the player's way. So it is optional. You don't have, no, Doom doesn't have a story if you don't look for it, So the codex was a little dry. Like it was geek fiction, but it was like, like even for me, I'm like, I don't know. It was the direction that we were heading in. And then we watched, this was a critical moment, I think, in the tone of certain aspect of the game. There's this, you always looked at comparisons in different mediums, right? So in the 90s, there was the movie Last Boy Scout, and it's one of my favorite movies. And it came out at a time when the whole concept of doing a buddy cop movie, action movie with Bruce Willis was so cliche, because he'd already, we had Lethal Weapons and Die Hards. And the writer, I believe is Shane Black, I think, he did an amazing job in that he knew it was cliche, and he let the audience know that they knew. Like it was just, and they would make these little comments. And I remember as a kid, it just made it all okay. It was so smart, just being self-aware. There's like this wonderful scene, and Marty and I talked about this. We watched it, and I said, this feels right, for Doom. The one where he wakes up and he's smoking. So he asks the guy for a cigarette, and he says, "Yeah, I'll give you a cigarette." And then he cracks him one, and then he says, "Touch me again, I'll kill you." He gives him another cigarette. He pushes the guy's brain into his nose into his brain, kills him. The bad guy Milo walks in, and he's like, "We should introduce ourselves." And Bruce Willis is smoking a cigarette. It's when Bruce Willis was awesome, and he goes, let's turn around, let's do our introductions. He's like, "What difference does it make?" He's like, "You're the bad guy, right?" And he's like, "I am the bad guy." He's like, "I'm supposed to be quaking in my boots," something like that. He's like, "Something like that." And he's like, "Yeah, I'll quake in my boots in a minute." And as a fan, I was just like, this is awesome, because I was totally ready for some super cliche scene, and he just took the sauce right out of it. And we were like, let's just, everybody knows. Like, we know, they know, everybody knows, so let's play with that. Let's say, what if a corporation was totally like, because you're expecting the game to be like, maybe it's an occult and it's a secret and no one knows. How about as soon as you walk in, it's playing on a fucking megaphone? Like, we need volunteers for the Revenant program. We're gonna turn people into demons, And the idea was that hell had already taken over. So like when you're talking to somebody who's like full blown nuts about something, they got that glassy look in their eyes, and you're like, you're really scaring me with the stuff you're saying right now. So it was a little bit of a play on that. It just being so out and about with your crazy, that seemed very liberating, just for me, for everybody, and so the messaging and the craziness. So Adam comes back because he would stay with us for a couple of weeks at a time, and I pitched it to him. I was just kind of like, what they know, they're just and they're proud of it, because let's say the demons have already because hell influences everybody. So like they've already become members of the occult, and they're not even aware of how crazy they are. We painted this scene to kind of sum up the way it was, is that they have board meetings about human sacrifices to summon the gods, or like who's going to donate, their heart to the next, summoning of the next Baron, and then they have, they have interns applying for this stuff, and there's like, posters in the lunchroom about Mancubus programs, and like we just kept going with it. Adam's cracking up. He's like, and he just, it's right when it's very much like being a comedian. You kind of put it out there, and if the audience laughs, you're like, okay, So we put it out there, and Adam's like, dude, this is. He's like, this is awesome. Like we could do this, So he comes back and he says, I'm going to do the first half. He's like, okay. He's super fast. The guy's awesome. He's a freelancer. Everybody should hire him. So a super experienced guy too. Like I loved talking to him just about stuff in general. Real experienced stuff. So he comes back and he's like, I'm going to take the first half of the codex entries because they're coming stages. And the first one you unlock, like on the imp or whatever, or like the facility, is going to be kind of the straight line. Because most cults, they're kind of normal up front. They're just like, yes, everything's fine. It's about finding yourself. And no, there's no weirdness going on, you know. And then you get to like the 7th level, you know, 4 years in, and you get handed the book, and you're like, this shit is nuts. Like, what is going on? So he's like, let's make the second entry be like the black book, right? That only like certain advocates can get, and we'll like reveal the crazy to them. And the first one he gave me was the one curl up in a ball and basically kiss your ass goodbye if you get attacked by an imp. Dude, I lost it. I'm like, this is it. Once he did that, I mean, I have the email. Like, it's funny. Like, I'm like, Adam, I'm losing it. Like, I'm like, this is it. I'm like, just you found the gear. Break the shifter off. We're staying here. You know, like this is it. And so he kept doing that, and it was like slightly normal corporate agenda. Oh, this is the access to the black book, which is totally fucking nuts, you know, like, and then, you know, in line with that, because that was right about the time when the whole story kind of fell into place. Like that literally that was about when from that came demonic invasion in progress, you know, because it was super liberating, you know. Right. I always say like a good idea is user friendly. Like, you know, when you're working with developers, if you throw something out there and it works, when in the meeting everybody's like, oh, and this and this and this and this and this. A bad idea is usually like it goes nowhere, but when it works, everybody's like, you know. So out of that then came the UAC spokesperson guy, you know, and so Chad Mossholder is I wrote a lot of the dialogue and the general outlines and stuff like that. Adam actually did passes on back when we were trying to do the other stuff, the sort of the slow setup, the one that didn't work. He helped us out with that early on. I ended up writing an outline and the script for when we finally found that, like, you know, when it all kind of locked into place. So Adam, Chad Mossholder, the sound guy, Chris Height told me, oh, he writes comics. I'm like, cool. We don't have a huge team, you know, and this has to be awesome. So I don't care who it is. If, you know, anybody in the building that can help, you're going to help, you know. So we sat down and we told them about it. And I'm like, they're nuts. Like, just write it like they don't know that. You know, when you talk to somebody and they're crazy and they don't know they're crazy and they're just telling you about the weirdest shit, you know, like, just write it like that, you know. And what you wanted was like, while I'm tearing apart demons, it's like, if you have a problem with the weaponization of the demons, please see HR. You're like, what the fuck did she just say? Like, is that what you just said? You know, and just picking it up like as you walk by, and it's totally dark because I mean, what? It's a Doom game. Why would it be anything but dark? And that he sent me a sheet, dude. I was dying. I mean, we had to, everything had to be like, that was mostly the task of like, okay, that's great, like, boil out the fat. That me and Marty's job was literally like with the saucepan boiling out the fat. Like, I love it. Yeah. That's 40 words. Say that in 10 words. You know. Yeah. He just had a stack of them, and they were hilarious. And then we had this one brainstorming session where we all sat in a room. We had producers in there, people just throwing out the most random shit, like Argent Energy. The road to hell is paved with Argent Energy. I'm like, that's awesome. Let's go in the game. Like, you know, like it was totally like that. And yeah, I honestly, this was a hard game to make. There were hard times with the reboot and all that stuff. Once we clicked in, it was fun. Like, and I think it shows in the game. Like, if you enjoy, I mean, you know, I'm a painter. You can see how much fun I had making my paintings. You could tell. You're really into that one? Yeah, that was a job. You just had to get that gig done. This was just fun. I mean, these meetings, like, it was almost, that premise was just fun to work with. The other one where you tried to set it up and the who's the demons and the slow reveal, like, it was just like dragging something through the mud. It was hard. This was just like, pow, you know, and Adam was into it and he was smiling and the stuff was just flying out. And then, so we outlined the story for the Slayer's Testaments. All this kind of happened at the same time. Because believe me, our hair was on fire. It was sort of like, the story still doesn't work. And
how much is left on?
Oh my God. It'll make us seem irresponsible if I tell you how much time was left. It was, I don't even remember. It was tight. I mean, like anything else, because it was tight because there was a commitment to doing the very best that we could. We could have stopped at the other story. We really could have. Like, that would have been okay. Like, that would have been good. You wouldn't have been asking about me. You would not be asking me about it right now if we stopped there. It was just very forgettable. So when it came in and it clicked, and it felt so good, and it was like, you know, like it was just like, okay, get it in the game, you know. While all this other stuff is going on, that's when you lead on your team. You know, when you really got great guys like Jerry who know how to make stuff happen. Because you're showing up at his door at like midnight, like, I got the story. We got to get it in the game. You know, like, so
was it
the Slayer's, oh, sorry.
No, you got it.
So the Slayer's Testament, we outlined the legend of the Doom Marine. You kind of enter the game as Doom Guy, but you leave as the Doom Slayer. Like, that was important to us, because nobody knew who the Doom Slayer was. And that was a lot of debate about, like, he's going to be a god by the time it's done. Will they accept this? And then we were like, it's cool. Like, I hope they do, you know. So the Slayer's Testament was very much you're going to be one bad motherfucker, right? But it's really drawn out, and it's just, you know, epic, and it's like you're hearing this Black Sabbath, you know, concept album dude with a mic just reading it out, and you're just like, holy shit, I'm a badass. And Adam he's so fucking awesome at that. Like, he really is. Like, we outlined sort of the arc of the Doom Marine and the shit he would do and stuff like that, and Adam just put it together, and I mean, I was reading and I was dying. I'm like, this is fucking amazing. And then the voice actor.
Right.
I mean, like, just, it was crazy to watch him do it, and like, it just was perfect, and we put it in the game. And I gotta be honest, like, our asses were out there. I mean, like, we were putting ourselves out there, like, sort of like, but why not? I mean, when you're making something, I'd rather go down swinging for the fences than bunting. Like, fuck that, you know? Like, who cares? I'm not hitting singles. Like, I don't give a shit. Like, just home run, you know, go all the way. So, like,
was there a worry that you were like sort of making a joke out of this? Like, I mean, it's Doom, right? It's like people love this thing and they've loved it for like 20 years.
Yes.
And you're like putting all this. Was there a little bit of reticence, like, oh, maybe we're doing too much with this?
So if you let them see you sweat, they won't buy it. You know, like, it's. I did a little bit of stand-up comedy at one point when I lived in LA, and there's a thing that, like, you got to own it. Like, you got to stand up there and sell it with everything you got, and then they'll buy it. They'll go with you. You know, if you could tell, don't believe me, and because Marty is 2 a.m, and Marty and I looking at each other, are we sure about this? Like, that voice is pretty out there. Like, this is some serious shit. We just said he brought down like a Titan. You know, like, we're like, fuck it, like this, let's just do it. You know, like, it's go all the way. I think the brand was so easy to work with. It was like the most pliable clay for a sculptor to work with. I mean, it's Doom. You know, like, every time we worried about that stuff, which was totally fucking valid, you look at the sprites going brrr, and like the stuff, you know what I mean? And you're just like, we could do anything, you know? Like, have you seen the stuff that goes on in Doom? We would say that, we just play a game, and I'm like, yeah, let's just do, he's got a rabbit. Like, you know, like, who cares? There's a rabbit on a stake in one of the games. Like, let's just go to town. And I think ultimately, like, I just think that games and movies, I love when they take the time to put the juice into the character. I think that Jaws is powerful because they spend so much time talking about how badass Jaws is, and they build him up, and he's the thing, and oh my god. And so, like, we were doing that with the Doom Marine. I love when they do that. Like, you know, when the hero pulls out his special gun, don't just pull it out and shoot somebody. I want to know that was made out of special metal, that was forged by some fucking samurai dude, like, long, you know what I mean? Yeah. And slowly pull it out, and the gleam off the thing, like, that's really what we were doing. We were like milking it, like building up the legend of the Doom Marine. And just, I loved what Adam wrote. Like, it was just the way he wrote it. Like, he's pretty cool. Like, he could shift with the Codex stuff and the Slayer's Testament. He was able to shift from, like, fantasy, you know, like hellish culty fantasy, to total nerd tech, you know, like with the guns and stuff like that. I loved it. It was really cool.
Can we talk a little bit about the audio design in this game? Because,
it's awesome.
Like,
it's amazing.
It adds to the cinematic flair of this game, like, constantly. Like,
yes.
We'll talk about the music maybe in a little second, but just like the actual audio sound design itself.
It's crazy. Chris Heights is amazing. So is Mick Gordon. So is Eric Chad, the whole team, all those guys. Yeah, I mean, it crescendos beautifully. It accents every action that I do. It is a rock concert. Chris fought for that. There was filters in place. There was a priority. He maintained that priority. Don't think there was an arguments. You know, like, I gotta hear the thing, and it's like, dude, you know, the power fantasy always comes first. So, and we ultimately struck a really good balance, you know, of like hearing the things that you needed to hear from a gameplay perspective, from a narrative perspective, but then ultimately like making the player constantly feel like a badass. I just love the work that Mick Gordon does. I listen to the OST on my way home to work. You know, it's such a simple emotion. I think that Doom taps in from an audio perspective that wonderfully complements the gameplay. I mean, everybody just wants to kick some ass sometimes. You know what I mean? Like, just keep it simple. Like, there's been a long time since a piece of entertainment has made me pull out the horns. Like, everybody's got the horns. We've all, you know, we all grew up with these. Today, it's not, you don't pull these out that much. Like, it's just, and the Doom made me do that again, where I was just like, this is fucking awesome. You know, like, horns up, heads down, let's just kill some demons. You know, like, it felt so good, and the music was just perfect. You know, there were times when he first put in the music, when it would kind of come online at the end. Right. Just run into his office and be like, dude, I can't stop playing this. Like, I feel like I just want to smash someone in the face after I'm done playing this, you know?
Did you have Mick Gordon in-house, or was he...
He did come in. He came in the beginning, and we talked. We talked about the comic book. We initially, when we kicked it off, we knew that we shifted from, and Doom 4, the original, was a bit more hard science fiction. Like, everything was justified and a little bit more serious. A little bit more like Contact, you know, like just tonally, just grounded in realism. And then when we shifted to Doom 1 and 2, we shifted to a comic book tone. Like we said, let comic books be the filter, you know, where, you know, everything kind of goes, you know. And Argent Energy is our gamma rays. You know, there's mutagen in Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, there's gamma rays in Marvel, like this, the secret sauce that does everything. Yeah, it makes Hulks, it makes whatever, you know. So, and that went for everything else. Like once it went to comic book and it was big and bold and loud, I think that was kind of, you know, at that point Mick was here, and when he heard that, and of course it's Doom, you know, it's got to be metal and stuff like that, but I love what he infused in with sort of all different kinds of music. I mean, I graduated in '94, so like I love industrial Nine Inch Nails, of course. There's no Pearl Jam in Doom, but that would have been my choice. But yeah, it just was a great power fantasy, and it accented it. It accented it beautifully.
And even the way, like, I remember the moment I was playing Doom where I went, oh no, okay, this is fucking awesome. And it was in when, I think it was the Argent Tower, when BFG Division plays for the first time.
Oh, it's awesome.
It was like, I finished the level,
yes,
and I restarted it immediately.
Well, and then you're discovering other things like the jump pads. Like, when you first play through it, you might not use those as much. By the end, when you get really good at the game, so you just keep playing it. I mean, I'm just a killing machine. I'm up in the air, I'm down, like trying to nail guys. The music is going. It's just, we couldn't stop playing the game. We kept saying that in interviews. It's really funny because people are like, well, what do you think of the game? You know, people say, oh, well, I love it. Who's going to stand up there and say they don't like their product? But we really did. Like, it was kind of a problem in the office. Like, it was sort of like, oh, I got to play test maps, check to see if the checkpoints are going. It's like 2 hours go by, I'm still playing. It's like, oh my God, I have to do work. You know, like, but you couldn't stop doing it. When you see an enemy flashing in a staggered state in front of you, it's nearly impossible not to run up to him and smash him in the face. You know, it's very difficult.
How difficult, I guess? Just a couple more questions because I know we've got a bunch more people to go to as well. The music, how it, like, the breaks when you did, like, the way it, like, sucked all the audio out and then came back in again, like. That must have taken a long time to craft.
It did, and I wish Chris would get Chad in here. He could go more into it. It's just the way, I asked him about that recently. It's just the way that it accents and the type of music that they're putting in, that it wonderfully accents the action of the combat. And I think it's a simple enough game that I think it kind of steers into that, making it almost easier to do that. You know what I mean? Because we know what it is. It's like, you get to the big fight, it's fucking party time. Like, and you know when the first wave hits, like, that's when it's going to go. It's not a slow game that's kind of like a little fight here, a little fight here. Oh, there's a puzzle. It's literally like, we're about to enter Cowboy Stadium. There's a game that's going to happen. Then, you know, we go off and do the next one, get to the next stadium. And I think they just because of the power of the music, it just accented it beautifully. He gave them, they were working with a wonderful variety of different, as you see in the Doom soundtrack. Like, you just had a lot of really great options.
Marty was really good at sort of explaining, like, what the scope of Doom 4 was, like cover shooter and sort of like earthy and different sort of vibe with like a group of people you're with and all that shit. You're really good at like explaining things in a much more like filmic sort of manner.
Yeah.
Could you give like your sort of take on what that was and how different it was to Doom 2016?
Yes. Realistic, Robert Zemeckis Contact kind of like if this really happened. Now, granted, just want to be clear, it was awesome. Seriously, like it doesn't, in my opinion, as a fan of id games, and that's why I came here. I don't think it makes bad stuff. Like I'm a fan of everything they make. If you've got a controller in your hand and a gun on a screen and it's got id on the box, it's gonna feel good to pull the trigger, So it did. Like it was fucking cool. But it was more realistic, It was more about the global impact of a hellish invasion, which is cool. And as a concept, I could see why they went there because I would probably want to explore that too, if it wasn't a Doom game, because it sacrificed to tell a bigger story. It sacrificed the Doomslayer, and Doom is about one guy involved in big things, and Doom 4 Classic was more about the big things, and it kind of forgot about the Doom Marine, or ultimately became the Doomslayer. So I think that's the difference. I think Doom 2016 definitely focused more on the Doom Marine and the power fantasy of one guy against an army. Conan with a shotgun. Like it's just, that solitary story, his cross to bear, the sort of his mission, the lone mission. There's a lot of Rambo in there, and we definitely reference that stuff. And just the cheese. I mean, there wasn't a lot of cheese on the Doom 4 original taco. There's tons of it on the new one. There really was. We were bringing that shit in barrels, and so it was just more comic book. More about the Doomslayer, and a huge just focus on Doom 1 and 2. Really using that as a touch. That was the Bible. I mean, we went to that just nonstop. It always showed us the way, of what, tone-wise. Let's just look back at, look at the sprites. Okay, we're okay,
When you were working on Pacific Rim, obviously you were involved in crafting the various different like robots and whatnot.
The Jaegers.
Right? The Jaegers.
Yes.
I should know that. I own that in Blu-ray. You had a similar kind of cool task with Doom, right? Like
yes.
You have all these demons, and it's kind of like, all right, we kind of know what they are, but we can like add flares to them. Can you talk about the design of some of those?
Yeah.
What are your favorites and what's that?
I like them all. Gameplay first. We would talk about. I'm big on that. Like, in school they would always talk about like you gotta stay on package. Like you're given a package to work with, and certain dimensions, a chassis, and whatever you make's got to fit on that. And you really haven't done your job as a designer. It's not okay to say, holy cow, that looks amazing. It's off budget, doesn't fit on package. Like that's not what our job is. For the artists, what their job is, and so you're in the meetings and we're working out the design of stuff, and then you want to make sure that like he looks cool, but he accentuates what it is we're trying to accomplish from a design perspective as well. And then that's a good design, something that does its job. Like that's super important. So, and there's no compromises. Like you can't really sit there and say, yeah, but if he just had 3 missiles, he'd look 10 times cooler. Because there's a lot of that. There's a lot of aesthetic principles and formulas that sometimes run in opposition of what's good for the game. The game wins. Fun wins, always. Fun first. That was always our mantra. So probably some of my favorites with that in mind would be probably the Pinky. I love that he's this freight train. There are many times when I'm in like the last level of the game or any level of the game, and you're doing the dance and you're feeling like a rock star and you're kicking major ass, and he just plows you from the side, just like you're like, holy shit, and I love how simple he is, and it speaks to that simplicity, that Apple-like simplicity of just swing around behind and shoot him in the part that looks weak. I love that about him. I think he perfectly complements the dance, and that's what it is. Like as you play through the game, you're playing chess, the combat puzzle that you have to solve, and your tools and the amount of chess pieces on the board increase, and the size of the chessboard and the type of chessboard increases as you progress through the game. So he was a wonderful addition to the combat puzzle, I thought, when he came in. So he's one of my favorites. Plus, he looks like that was so hard. He looks like the original Pinky, and that was a giant like pain in the butt to do. Seriously, the character modeler on that, Jason Martin, who is awesome. His whole team, Dens, Brian Winya, Emmanuel, Evgeny, all those guys just kick major ass. It's weird. I can't do any of their jobs, so I just kind of stand there in awe when you get this stuff. I mean, the work that they did was really incredible, and the ideas that the designers had and stuff is just awesome. And then the Revenant is probably my favorite because he's so straight metal. I mean, he belongs on the cover of an Iron Maiden album, you know, and he looks, I like that he looks insane. Because it's everything, there's humor in everything. I mean, you know, I have a hard, as you can tell, like I try not to take things too seriously. He just looks nuts. That's actually was a big thing. I like to focus when you're making a product on the emotional response that you'll get from the consumer. Like when I show you something, I put a product in your hand, I put a new phone in your hand, we sit in a car, you watch a movie that we worked on, you know, or play a game that we made. What are you doing? I want to see. Are you going like this? Well, maybe we're making that type of game, and I want you to be scared. Are you smiling the whole time? Because that's how you should be on Doom. Like, totally, we wanted you to smile. We didn't want you to shriek or cover your eyes. Smile. So when we showed it at QuakeCon and you see the Revenant, I mean, the Revenant just makes you smile because he looks ridiculous, you know? He's like losing his mind. He's never not screaming. You know, it's just hilarious. So, and he makes everybody smile. So, you know, and to be honest, it is why we get away with the level of violence that we do, because it's kind of all okay. It's all in good fun. I'm just going to rip his arms off. You know, like, this is fun. We're having fun, you know? And because if it's just a little bit mean-spirited, I think it's a little bit, you know, tonally, it gets a little more harsh and mean-spirited, and we didn't want that, you know? Popcorn horror, that's what we called it, popcorn horror for the whole family. and who else is really good? The Imp is just amazing. Like, he's the character that you could just keep fighting again and again. You get a room full of imps in our levels with the way these guys set this stuff up, and you're just going to get good results. Like,
pulling onto walls.
Oh, he's just awesome. He really is. And yeah, it's the concept guys. So Alex Palma designed the Revenant, and the sketch just spoke to us immediately. I think the look of the game really clicked into place with that character, and we definitely like captured the spirit of something with the Revenant and the work that Alex did under John Lane is our lead concept artist, and those guys really hit the mark. And then we started to like put that into everything. You're always looking, in my position, you're always looking for those puzzle pieces that fit, and then you kind of put other pieces around them. So it's sort of like you see something that clicks, or animation will do this animation that's like, oh, like that made people smile. That drawing kind of has that, and you're just kind of linking things together, you know what I mean? Setting up the filters and stuff like that, and making sure that everything's on brand and speaking to the right tone that you're trying to achieve. But yeah, the concept guys definitely did some amazing work.
Last question. I mean, worked on this game for years. You obviously poured your heart and soul into it, and kind of went out there and like took a risk when it comes to the mood and whatnot. What was it like when it finally got released and like you were watching videos of people like got it?
It was crazy. Because not everybody got it. Internally, it was in an unfinished state a lot of the time, so it wasn't all there. So understandably, it didn't click, and there were concerns. I give credit to everybody involved for we all stood by each other, and we said we're going to finish this and it's going to work when it's done. We have faith in what we're doing. We believe in what we're doing. Like, we feel like it's going to connect. And you watch, there was this guy, I forget his name. It's Profanity. He's a Twitch guy. He's got an Australian accent. He was. I should remember this. I'm sorry. He played it first. He did a playthrough. He gets on. So we're all watching. I obsessively read everything about Doom. If anybody writes anything, I'm going to read it like immediately. I have a bit of a problem. And so he gets on first, and it was wonderful. So he says, I wasn't even thinking about doing this, but I'm going to just put it on anyway. Let's see what we got. And then the opening hits, and he pulls him out, dude. Like, he's all about it. And I'm like, dude, he's doing it. Like, he's getting it. Like, this is it. Like, just he bought the ticket. Like, he took the ticket. He's on the train. He's doing it, you know? And he was losing his mind. And then he did this thing where he would stop, and read every codex entry in this like hellish satanic voice to people. When he got to the Slayer's Testament, he would do that, and just he's dodging the projectiles, and he's looking for all the secrets, and he was so into it, and you're just like, it worked. Like they like it, you know what I mean? I just want to make stuff that connects to people. The greatest satisfaction that a creative person has, or a team, is that you can get it. Honestly, the best part of being a creative person is seeing that moment when you laugh at the joke that you're supposed to laugh at, or you're just enjoying it. You really are. It's very much like being a commercial artist means that you make art for others. You have to enjoy that, you know, and I love it. I wear my commercial art, I wave my commercial art flag with pride, because I like making stuff for other people and I want them to enjoy it. So to see people freaking out over it and having so much fun and doing this, and people keep saying this is metal as fuck, like I'm like, good, that's what I want you to think, you know. Like it was so cool. It really was. The team was so great to just see, like, for everybody that killed themselves, because we worked so hard, like we really did. I mean, it was easy. It's easy to pour yourself into something that you love, but and honestly, like, and I got to give Marty a lot of credit. Like he was so committed to all of us just doing the very best that we could, and standing by it, that, like, you know, you could bring your A game. It was wanted. People wanted your A game. They wanted you to give it their all. We totally did. There's just so much heart and passion put into this. Even talking about it, like, I can't talk about it and not just gush, because it was so much fun, and we're so proud of it. And just seeing it connect as a team. I mean, we were running around the office and everybody. So I read every Reddit comment, like every single one, and the Doom World guys, I read everything, like, and every video that gets made. So, like, it just felt so good when people, even today, will just discover the game on sale, and they'll post again and say, I just want to say that this is seriously, like, holy cow, like, this is awesome, I'm having so much fun, best FPS, blah blah blah, like, and whatever. That's all, like, hyperbole. Like, we totally appreciate it. We're not putting ourselves in any kind of position, but it just feels good that they like it, you know. It's amazing.